I'm now going to take you through standing alignment. So you're going to bring your feet together, heels come out, and then toes come out to meet them. From here, we're just going to take a little rock backwards and forwards, so just feeling where the weight is in your foot, and then slowly bringing yourself to a standstill where that weight is evenly balanced between your heel and your toe. Once you've come to here, we're going to think about moving the weight into the outside of the foot so that the knees track the toes, keeping them soft. Then just a gentle tuck and tilt to keep an eye on where you're placing that pelvis. And we're going to slowly make that movement slower until your tailbone is pointing down towards the floor, restacking those vertebrae, growing towards the ceiling. Next, we're going to make sure the arms are staying next to your side, so your shoulder blades are coming back and down. Just give those shoulders a little wiggle. And then next, we're going to go through the pelvic floor, core, and breathing. So as we inhale, we're going to feel that rib cage expand into the sides, back and front. The diaphragm moves down and so does the pelvic floor. As you exhale, you're thinking about pulling your ribs to hips and pulling in the pelvic floor. So we're thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Again, we're going to inhale, feel that rib cage expand, and then exhale, draw those ribs in, engage that pelvic floor, thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Again, inhale, release, and exhale, engage. Inhale, release, and exhale, engage. Couple more breaths here with me. There's quite a lot of information to take in with the breathing, core and pelvic floor and how it works together. So don't panic if you can't nail this today. This is something that we're going to work on as we move through the course. Just keep thinking, I need to be breathing as I'm exercising, and keep thinking about pulling in those pelvic floor and core muscles at the same time. So pelvic floor, sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Core, we're thinking rib to hip, hip to hip, belly button to spine. And now we're ready for our workout. I'm now going to take you through a balance. So we're going to stand on one leg, and then you're going to move the other leg in a semicircle motion from the front to the back, keeping an eye on what happens to your pelvis. So trying to keep your pelvis square, keep your core switched on. So we're thinking rib to hip, hip to hip. Then once we have done 5 or 6 of these circles, we're going to move into taps. We're going to do 5 taps to the front, 5 taps to the side, and 5 taps to the back. And then we're going to repeat that again, keeping your pelvis level as you tap to the back, making sure you're not leaning your body forward. So keeping your shoulders tall. And then we're going to come back to the front, and we're going to go into a raise. And again, we're going to do 5 raises to the front, 5 raises to the side, 5 raises to the back. As you push back, keeping your core switched on. So again, rib to hip, hip to hip. And then repeating that one more time. And then we're going to swap to the other leg. Starting with those circles. So we're going to just semicircle, opening up the hip joint, building strength in the supporting leg, keeping the weight balance between your heel and your toe as you go. Core stays strong, supporting the rest of your body. Balance is what I like to think of as a fundamental life skill. So if you've got good balance, you tend to have less falls, less little trips and spills. This means less opportunity to get little injuries, but also those big injuries as well that hold us all back as we get ill, that hold us all back as we get older. So hip issues and knee issues. Keeping good balance is really a fundamental key for longevity and having a long, healthy, happy, adventurous life. My top tip for my clients is always to practice their balance whilst they are brushing their teeth. So when you're standing on your right leg, you're going to brush your top teeth, and then when you're standing on your left leg, you're going to brush your bottom teeth. And if you do that every day, twice a day, you're just going to really work on your balance, work on the strength of the foot as well, which is really fundamental. And this is just going to help you have a better quality of life. And when you have finished your balance challenge for today, we're going to come back to standing. Next, we're going to do a lunge with rotation. So starting in your neutral spine position, stepping forward with your right leg, and then we're going to rotate that upper body over the right leg, making sure your hip, knee and foot stay in alignment as you rotate. We're going to hold that rotation for somewhere between 10 and 15 seconds and then swap to the other side. This is a really good exercise for building strength in your legs, as well as improving that rotational mobility of your thoracic spine. Every time you step out into your lunge, making sure that your foot, knee and hip stay in alignment. Coming into a low lunge, or as low as you feel is right for you. So you can feel those legs working, but you can keep going and maintain good balance throughout the move. Lunges are a really good exercise for working the legs independently. So you'll know here if you've got a side that is more tricky, and that's probably the side that's slightly weaker, so you can then work on that. So this is a really good way of telling if you've got a side that feels less balanced. This is probably the side you need to work on, and the side of your body that's weaker. As you rotate over that front leg, keeping that knee tracking your toe, make sure that that knee doesn't fall in. If you need to make the steps smaller so that you feel more balanced, that's always an option. Holding that lunge and then pushing back to standing. And we're nearly at the end of our set. So you should really start to feel this in the legs. This is a great exercise for building strength around the knee joint and around the pelvis. Also building core strength, keeping that core switched on as you rotate. Building that lovely mobility through the thoracic spine. You're doing really great. We are nearly at the end of our set. Keep stepping forward. See if you can get lower for these last couple of lunges. We're going to see if we can go a little bit lower. It's my challenge for you. Get a little bit lower for the next couple. And then once you've finished, coming into your rest pose. I hope you're ready for some good work now. So we're going to come down onto our side and do a leg extension lift. So hip and shoulder in a line, bend the bottom leg if you need a little bit more support, lift the top leg to hip height. Then we're going to just bring it forward slightly, and you're going to raise it slowly and lower it back to hip height 3 times. We're then going to take the leg back to the middle, and we're going to do another 3 raises, keeping hold of that rib to hip connection, core switched on, and then taking it behind you. Really important that rib to hip stays strong. 3 more raises. This is a really good exercise for building strength in the side of the leg and the glutes, which I'm sure you're going to feel within the next couple of reps. Going to aim to do 5 or 6 sets of these, but if you need to, you can always reduce it down, remember, and you can also reduce the amount of raises. So if you need to do 1 or 2 raises at the front, middle and back to start with, and then progress up to 3, just keep a note of how many you've done in the app, and then you can always add more on at a later date. This is really tough, so quality over quantity always. So if you need to have a little break, have a little break. You could always split it down into 2 sets if you needed to. We're going to roll over and do the other side. So hip and shoulder in a line, bending that bottom leg if you need a little bit more support, and then a slow controlled rise to the front, the middle and the back. Aiming for 3, but if you need to, reducing it down to slightly less. Keeping your chin lifted, keeping your strong core engaged. So thinking rib to hip, hip to hip. Pelvic floor, we're thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. There's no real breathing pattern for this exercise. I just want you to make sure you are breathing. This leg lift is really simple, but it's a really effective way of building strength around the muscles of the pelvis and the core. If you want to make this harder at any point, you can always try lifting that top arm up off the ground, and that's just going to mean that you have to balance more using your core, and you're going to challenge your core more. The other thing you can do is make sure that the bottom leg is not bent, so straightening out that bottom leg. And once you're finished, giving that leg a karate chop and coming back to sitting. I'm now going to take you through swimming on your front. So we're going to lay down on your front, bring your arms stretched out in front of you, and then we're going to lift the opposite arm and leg. As we do so, we're going to engage our core. So we're thinking about pulling our hip bones together, our ribs down towards our hips, and we're gently going to move from side to side, really stretching out through that arm and leg as you go. This is really good for building strength in the muscles in the backside of your body. Making sure you're not pushing your belly down into the mat. What we're going to do now is take a couple seconds rest, and then we're going to go into a flow set. So we're going to bring the opposite arm and leg up, and then we're just going to flow from side to side. So as before we were stopping and pausing as that arm and leg lifted, now we're just flowing from side to side. As you'll see in the video, it's not necessarily that it's faster, we're just moving from side to side, keeping that core engaged. So we're thinking about drawing those ribs down towards your hips. And then once you're finished, we're going to come back into our child's pose. We're going to hold this for your own count of 15 seconds. And then coming back into our rest position.